Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started if that's okay with you, Kat.
Yeah, it sounds great. Let's get going.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar Job Search 101, which is part of our Get That Job webinar series. My name is Jordan Neal, and I am the career librarian here at the Champaign Public Library. So thank you all for joining us. So for the latest library news and updates, please visit our website, champaign.org, or you can follow us on social media if that's an option for you. The library's phone, chat, and email services are still available here at the library. You can email us at librarian@champaign.org. We are still offering our Book a Librarian service virtually if you need any help at home. To request a session, visit champaign.org/bookalibrarian to fill out a request form. In regards to career services, Kat or I would be happy to meet with you one-on-one virtually to discuss your resume or your cover letter. We've been hosting some practice interviews and anything else related to your professional development needs. And as always, our e-library is always open where you can enjoy ebooks, movies, and more using your Champaign Public Library card, or you can sign up for a virtual library card through our website for instant access. Finally, I would like to briefly go over a few features available to you that might help during this particular webinar. Depending on your computer or device, if you take a look at your Zoom window, you can hopefully see audio settings at the bottom left of the screen, and you can adjust your audio settings like changing your speaker by clicking or tapping on the upward arrow next to your speaker. Moving to the center bottom of your screen, you will see a chat and raised hand option. Clicking on the chat will open or close a chat box on the right side of your Zoom window, or sometimes it displays in the middle of your screen, and you can just drag it around again, just depending on your computer or device. You can also raise hand to receive assistance. You can use this if you have any technical difficulties or you'd like to speak and ask your question if you prefer not to type into the chat. We invite you to use the chat or raised hand option to ask questions or leave any comments. I think Kat would be happy to pause throughout the presentation for any questions. And lastly, library webinars are recorded, so just letting you know in case you do ask those questions or share any comments. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce our presenter and my colleague, Cat Purcell. Besides helping with career services here at the Champaign Public Library, Cat also brings us her wealth of experience from Tampa, Florida public libraries, including career and technology services. The library's business librarian, Madeleine Wolske, will also join us in just a bit here to introduce herself and discuss a library resource that might be helpful during your job search. So with that, Kat, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. So just to introduce myself a little bit, as she said, I'm Cat Purcell. Been working in libraries for a little over 5 years now and have experience job hunting myself. So hopefully tonight we can share some tips and tricks to narrowing down that job search and finding that job that you'd like. I like to keep a pretty open and casual webinar. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat at any time. I'll pause, I'll keep my eye on that chat box. And I'll be asking you guys some open-ended questions throughout the webinar just to make sure that we're getting the needs that you have when it comes to your job search met. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over to my PowerPoint presentation here. Okay. All right, so there, as you can see, that's my email. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions or if you wanted to follow up later. We could get you the slideshow if you need to. Any questions you have, just let me know by my email. A little agenda overview is first we're going to go over searching for jobs because the search is the main part of what we're here for today. Applying for jobs, going over some various employment websites, and then any expectations, considerations, and next steps. Anything, a kind of a catch-all of what to do while you're job searching besides the actual job search. So the next thing to go over is where do you look for jobs? So right now we know that COVID is a thing, and primarily online is our only option right now. So hiring new staff, it can be very time consuming for HR people or even small companies, especially during a pandemic. So being able to go online and sort through applications virtually is really the only way to do things right now, and probably going to lead to that being the primary focus going forward. And if you're not comfortable job searching online, this is the place to go. We will help you work through that process because it can be pretty time consuming. So newspapers are usually kind of the last place to go search for jobs now. In person, as we know, we're all limited with that in-person contact right now, but networking is still a thing. So we're going to cover those different methods throughout it. So before we get going, I want to ask you guys a question. So which job search site should you use? And feel free to go ahead and answer in the chat box. If you're not sure, go ahead and move your mouse to the bottom or tap on the bottom and there's a little chat box. And if you have that option to go ahead and type in an answer, let me know which job search site should you use? I'm going to give you guys another little tip for my questions. They may be open-ended, but there are no wrong answers. So please feel free to pop in an answer. They're just kind of conversation starters. And we've got LinkedIn as a suggestion. LinkedIn, we will be talking about LinkedIn tonight. Google's also a very good one, and I'm going to do a little demo of how to job search on Google because it's a pretty great place. Simply Hired. Now that's one I have not heard of, so I'm going to have to look into that. Simply Hired. Indeed. Yep, Indeed's a good one. Wherever it gets me a job. Yep. Sometimes you just need to find that job, and that's okay. Especially right now, we're all kind of tightening our belts a little bit, and sometimes just getting that job, any job, is a good place to start. Illinois.net. That's a good one too. Yep. Snagga. I'm going to have to look into that one too. I'm going to make some notes down. These are some ones I haven't investigated, so thank you guys. I have to add them into my slideshow. Simply Hired, Snag. All right. I think I've heard from everybody. So like I said, there are no wrong answers here. Some different Snag a Job. I wondered if that was it. Okay, Snag a Job. There really is no wrong place to go. Some sites tend to be geared towards certain industries. I know the last time I did a job search one, we had a question about LinkedIn, and specifically it's kind of more, it's not so much for the industrial jobs. So as we all know, there are some job sites that are better for other careers than others, and that's okay. So there's no wrong answers. And before you begin your job search, I like to think that this is kind of the most important part of the job search, is not necessarily the actual job search, but what you need to do to prepare yourself for that job search. So one of the first things to do, get that resume and cover letter. Online applications and profiles, take a look at those, narrow down what you're interested in searching for a job on. Make sure you've got your letters of recommendation in order. So maybe you don't have those actual letters, but you know your contacts to go to for recommendations. And then I think the best thing and most helpful thing is to have a job or career hunting list. So you can simply just open up an Excel sheet or a Google, the Google alternative in your Google Drive, if you know where that is. You can just open up a spreadsheet, put in your job titles, the job companies, when you applied for them, what position it was, just to keep it all straight, and make sure you're on top of where you're at in the hiring process for various different companies. So once you've got that sort of stuff in line, And good thing to know is what the situation looks like out there for job searching. So we know that job searching is pretty much on everybody's minds right now with the coronavirus going on. So these are a little slightly outdated, but this is still the most recent numbers I could find. Is the May 2020 unemployment rate for Chicago specifically was 20.7%, and for Champaign 10.9%. And this is versus last year in Champaign, it was only at 3.9% unemployment rate. So it's jumped up a lot, as I'm sure we all know. So another thing to make sure you're on top of is your unemployment insurance. If you haven't filed for that, go ahead and check out IDES to make sure you've got that on file. Do some company research and research news. That's a good place for LinkedIn. Even if your industry isn't got a huge activity on LinkedIn, it's good to check them out. Or the Better Business Bureau, also a good place to check out some job, just to know the feel of that company if you're looking into applying there. And then ways to make sure you stand out: retooling your resume and cover letter, buff up your online profiles, make sure they look professional and things you would want your prospective boss to see. And then practice on different platforms. So get familiar with Zoom, get familiar with using LinkedIn or using Indeed, just to be familiar with those activities in websites if you're going to be using them. If these are things that you think you need some help with, once again, we're here for you at the library. You can shoot me an email, you can talk to Jordan, you can do a book a librarian, and we'll get you comfortable with using these tools. So next steps for knowing why are you searching for a job? Maybe you're just out of work. That's a pretty easy answer there. But sometimes you just need a career change. Maybe you're bored with what you're doing. Maybe you want to get into the dream job you've always wanted to. So know your why. Make a list. What is your desired career field? What fields are you willing to work in or not willing to work in? What's your desired salary or hourly range? What kinds of things will you accept or need in terms of those benefits? Are you willing to commute? How far are you willing to commute? What's your end goal with this job? Is it just a short-term job or is it a long-term job? Do you just need this to pay your bills right now, or are you hoping to make a real long-term step up the ladder in this position here? You want to use your skills? You want to grow your skills? Do the company's values match yours? What are you going to settle for and what are you not willing to settle for? So before you apply, like I said, check out that company. They're going to be impressed with you if you can show that you know about them. See if they're listed on the Better Business Bureau. Check out Career One Stop. That's a great free website that you can use whether you don't have an account with them or not. Check out company websites, the specific websites. Glassdoor.com is a really good one because it'll give you some information on what past or present employees feel about that company. Google, check out Google. LinkedIn, of course, if they've got that. Check out networking. If you have any close connections, this is another tool that LinkedIn is really good for. You can check out that company and it'll show you on the side whether you have any similar connections with people who already work at that company. Send them a cold message, send them a request, see if they're interested in connecting with you. That's going to be sometimes a really good way to make that connection and get that job. Jobs aren't always posted on these websites. So sometimes you can get that job without even knowing it's available just because you have a connection with somebody who already works there. And then of course the public library. So you can always check out job searching here at the library or whatever help you might need about knowing about that company before you go to apply for them. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Madeleine. So I'm going to stop my screen and she can tell you a little bit more about tools.
So much, yeah, so I'm Madeleine Wolske. I am the business librarian here at Champaign Public, and earlier Kat had mentioned company research. So company research is really similar to something that we do in the business industry, and that's industry research. It's always recommended for people if they are wanting to start a business. It's always good to research the competition, see where your industry is, where it's at locally, and you can use one great business tool that's used for business industry research as a way to kind of look around and see what's offered in my field in Champaign, Illinois, or in Ohio, if you choose to move to Ohio. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I am on the library website, so it's champaign.org, and I'm on the business page. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see reference solutions. So that is the database that I am going to use and show you how to use. So I'm clicking on use reference solutions, and it's taking me over to the database. So it didn't prompt me that I needed a library card, but because I'm on the library Wi-Fi at the moment, but if you're utilizing this resource at home, you will need to log in with your library card. So if you don't have a library card, just reach out to us again, librarian at champaign.org, and we can see what we can do for you. So reference solutions is kind of like the white pages. It has a lot of information on businesses, people, statistics on what consumers like to purchase. But today we're going to be using it for US businesses. So this first selection right here, I'm going to click on search. So it first just prompts me a pretty quick search, but you know, we are going to be expert job searchers. So we are going to the advanced option. And that's just the second tab. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'm not able to see it right now, but I'm sure Kat is, she's got my back. All right, so you'll notice it says record type, verified businesses. This is kind of, it's similar to Glassdoor. So these are businesses that this corporation, so Reference Solutions, Data Axle, they have contacted them and verified. So all of the information that you see here, so that could include the number of employees within the corporation, the address of the owner, who the owner is, if they're an LLC or what have you. All of that information is just what you would like. So let's say that I am wanting to get into the restaurant business. So I am a chef and I specialize in Tex-Mex. So what would we do in order to find restaurants within the area that kind of suit that search query? So on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see this search bar. So I'm going to click business type, and I'm going to do keyword //NAICS, and that's just business keywords. But so I'm going to put in first restaurant, and it's going to pop up some results. So you can see there's a lot of different matches here. I had said Tex-Mex, but you know, maybe I just want to do restaurants in general. So I'm going to go back up to the top and click on restaurants. And next thing I'm going to do is narrow down the geography, because I don't want to search the entire United States. If you do, go for it. But I want to work where I live. So that would be Champaign, Illinois. So I'm doing city, state, scrolling down, whoop, right here. And I'm putting in Champaign. And we're lucky that Champaign's a pretty unique name. So only one of them. All right, so once that's collected, I am ready to view my results. And here you have a listing of all of the restaurants within Champaign, Illinois. And this is so helpful because Kat had mentioned that sometimes you might not see a job that's available being advertised. It's really up to networking, who you know. It could also be up to who you call. So you're actually able to call a lot of these restaurants, just maybe Aroma Cafe. Hey, are you needing a barista? Are you looking for a barista? It's a great way to see if what you want to do, what type of industry you want to go in, is in the geographic area that you're at. And this is a great business tool for you to use during your job search. So I encourage you to reach out. Let me know if you have any questions about this specific resource, or, you know, if your first job is starting a business. I think that's fantastic. Or your next job is starting a business. Feel free to reach out, and happy to help when I can. So thank you so much, Kat.
Yeah, thank you, Madeleine. We really appreciate you walking me through that. I had just learned about this now. I'd known that they added some of these tools, but hadn't thought to use reference solutions myself for a job search. And this is all just stuff you could do through the library. And sometimes it's that cold call that really gets you that job, as scary as it is. I always think you might as well call and find out. And if the answer is no, you're no worse off than you were before. But now they know your name. Mm-hmm. So it's always a good thing to look into if you're really trying to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and again, it's like, it's always great to follow up, because you might apply to a job online, might be like if you're applying, a bigger corporation. So you don't have any contact information of the people who actually work there. So it might be in your best interest to give them a call and just say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm just wanting to confirm that you received my application, or if there's any other information I can give out. You're personalizing your application, for lack of a better word. Yeah, so it's good to have that info.
Thank you.
I will let you continue.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for sharing that. And then I'm gonna
thank you, Madeleine.
Share my presentation again. Okay. Oops, I'm going through a little too fast. I clicked on the wrong share. Sorry, guys. All right, bear with me here. I had to start back over at the beginning. We'll go back through and on to the next slide. So we got another question. So once again, get those chat boxes open. Should you apply for the job even if you don't have the degree? And should you apply to the job if you don't have the experience? We've got one yes. Let's see if we've got some other people who have different opinions or similar ones. Give it a little bit more time, just in case it takes a little bit like me switching over to that PowerPoint to get that chat box up. So we've got some different feelings. We've got one no. All right, so I'm going to let my bit in and I'll say yes. And then since Madeleine was the one who said no, I might switch it back over and see what she has to say with no, if she wants to. Yeah, give it a shot. You might as well. So shoot for that job. If it's one you're interested in, apply for it. If you don't have the degree, but it's something you really want to do, this is exactly where you want to use a cover letter, because you can use that letter to explain why you've got the experience, even if you don't have the degree, and why you want to work for them, which could be the selling point. And it shows that you want to learn, you want to get involved. And the reverse of that is, should you apply for the job if you don't have the experience? Absolutely, you might as well. Everybody's got to start somewhere. And as I'm sure some of us have seen, a lot of these companies say they need 5 years experience for entry-level jobs, and that's not possible. So go ahead and apply. If you show that you're willing to learn, whether that's through real life examples or just you telling them, I want to learn about this job, I want the experience. Sometimes that drive can be enough for them to want to hire you. And I can use myself as a personal example. I have worked here in libraries and I don't have a master's in library science. I want to get one day, but it just hasn't happened yet. And luckily I had that experience and that drive and was taken on by Champaign Public Libraries anyway, and I love it. So yeah, exactly. showing that you're willing to learn is really what any employer wants, because that shows that you're going to take the time needed to do the job right. And if you don't know, you have a growth mindset, as they say, so that you're going to take on those challenges so that you do know, and then you can do the job. So yes, definitely apply to the job anyway. All right, so let's go over some different employment websites if you're not familiar with them. This might introduce you to some you haven't heard of. Some of these are ones you guys mentioned in the comments, and it'll give you just a little bit of an overview. So a really helpful tool is Career One Stop. This one is, I think, often looked over, but it can be really helpful because it encompasses a lot of things. So it's actually sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor. If you have worked with IDES, you might have used Career One Stop. It's a great tool because it gives you different careers to explore. It helps you find training, whether it's just online or local training. It has a job search included in the site itself, which is pretty useful. And it has a little find local help button, so it can point you to people in your area to help you. It also has lots of resources. It helps you figure out your business interests. It's got specific tabs there for military and veterans. And if you're going to change career fields, it can break down what you need to know to change that career field and get the certification or the degree or the training that you need to get that next step. So as I said, yeah, it's got lots of different options and descriptions. It's got job searches and filters that are pretty great tools, and it helps you locate those trainings and certificates. Another one to look at is Illinois Job Link. So this is another one you might be familiar with if you've worked through IDES. And it's also a great tool for refining your job search. It's got local tools, local jobs. It helps you break down the wage, as you kind of see in that example there. If you've got, a specific wage that you need. It's got training and education, and it's all vetted jobs. So one of the great things about Illinois Job Link is that those employers that are posted through their site are vetted. They're actually interested in hiring you. And they've got a lot of resume guides too. If resumes are not something that you've ever had to work with before, but you need to know, they can help you out with that through Illinois Job Link too. The next one is Indeed. So Indeed is probably one of the big ones right now. I think probably because it's so simple. They've got a very simple, sleek design. So if you're not familiar with an internet job search, they're usually the go-to because it's pretty easy to navigate their job search categories. So as you can kind of see on this example, they've got their job search, what job you're looking for. You can put in the keyword, you can put in the company, you can put in part-time or full-time, you can choose your where or make it everywhere. You can make a resume through their site. It's got a very easy account login. It's just kind of like an email address and password, and you can make a resume on the site if you haven't made one already to just automatically apply to some jobs. You can download that resume to use if you're going to a real life interview, or if you're going to apply to a different site, you can use that same resume. And it's got job alerts. So one of the things I know that I've worked with people who use Indeed is sometimes their job alert emails are a little too much. So when you set up a profile with them, I do want to warn you to make sure that you change your settings or make it, just the right amount of email for you for those job preferences, because they will email you jobs a lot. But it also gives you the tools to narrow down your jobs by location, by salary type, company type, experience level, what have you, which can be really helpful to finding that job that's just for you. And the next one I want to talk about is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is pretty well known, I think, for most people now. It kind of started as like the Facebook of the professional world, and you could have your own little profile on there with your professional resume, and now companies are listed there too, so you can connect with your company through LinkedIn. It's a great way to connect with other people in your industry and stay in touch with them. You can do recommendations through your page. It also gives you the ability to make a resume on their site, and it essentially looks like your profile page. You can just download that and export it if you need to. But recruiters are also really on LinkedIn. I know several people who have been hired exclusively through LinkedIn. Recruiters are on that site working for different companies that are also on there, and they'll just reach out to you and say, hey, I've got a job you might be interested in. You'll just find it in your message box. And my husband is one of those people who has gotten his job. The last 3 jobs he's had have been through LinkedIn, and those recruiters are often great to work with because that's their job, is to get people jobs. But it's a great place to make connections. So another option is LinkedIn Learning through LinkedIn, which at the library we provide you access for. So if you've got a library card, you can use LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is a great tool for getting those soft skills built up. For they don't really have a whole lot of certification for different things, but you can list that you've got that training on LinkedIn on your profile or in a resume, and that's going to help broadcast that you have the skills for the job, or that you're learning again to know your job better. So it's a great tool all around for LinkedIn. The next one is Monster. So Monster kind of used to be more of the big one, and I think Indeed has kind of taken its spot. It's also very simple interface. It's similar to Indeed in that you can create a resume and submit a resume directly through the site itself. It gives you the option to hide your profile if you are currently employed, so you can keep yourself up to date on there, whether you're looking for a job or not, just to see what's out there. And you can also hide it if you're not looking for a job. It's got a lot of different ways to filter as well, through salary, location, job type, and more. So those are just the overview of, I think, some of the most popular job sites. So another good one I know, well, some people also like to use Craigslist. I will say that has led to some good jobs, but be wary. There can be a lot of spam and scam jobs through okay, I've got a comment here, but yeah, so you can use Craigslist, just be wary, and I'll go into that a little bit more. We've got a comment about the recruiter aspect. Should you be seeking out recruiters, or are you saying update your info in case recruiters are looking? I'd say update your info. Recruiters, I have not met one in person myself. Typically, it's kind of like a third party thing. So you don't usually see recruiters, I guess because it's all virtual through LinkedIn. The 2 people I know who have gotten their jobs through LinkedIn recruiters didn't have any access to them before. They didn't seek them out. They came to them and said, hey, your skills look like what this company is looking for, and I've got a job that you might be interested in. Do you want to talk about it more? And I have myself been approached through LinkedIn by a recruiter, and the best way to just get their attention is to keep your profile active. So keep your skills up to date on LinkedIn. Like I said, LinkedIn Learning has a lot of different videos and tools for lots of different things, from mindfulness to how to use Excel to in-depth learning of Adobe Illustrator. And if you're watching those videos on LinkedIn, it's going to show up on your profile that you're currently learning different skills, and that's going to flag the recruiter's attention towards you if that's an industry you're trying to get into. Another way to attract their attention is be active on it. So people will share posts and jobs will share activities. Leave a comment in the comment section. Through LinkedIn, they also have different like I said, the LinkedIn Learning portion, their instructors will have comment sections of the actual videos themselves, and that's a good place to just network in general, but also leave a bit. The more digital trail you leave in LinkedIn, the more chance a recruiter is going to come looking for you through that way. So it's kind of a hard aspect, and it's not like there's not a science to it with recruiters. It's more just kind of attract their attention the best you can. Does that answer your question, Stacy? I hope that kind of got to it. It's such a, I've not been a recruiter and I don't know one in person. I would love to get to know one to just kind of know more about the insideness of it. But
And may I add
yes.
something too? And
Yeah.
Kat, it's exactly what Kat said. There's not an exact science to it. Sometimes it also depends on your the settings, like your privacy settings as well. Like, so for the people I knew who got jobs, their settings were different. They had a lot of information. They were very open. It wasn't tied down to it. So recruiters saw it that way. And there's also ways on LinkedIn where you can actually change in your settings and say that you're looking for a job. There's ways to change it on your actual profile. So recruiters who are on LinkedIn could look for that depending on the industry or the field or something like that. But again, like Kat said, there's many ways to go about doing it.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, that's really helpful. Yes, I forgot about those settings. There are settings that's kind of tricky to find in LinkedIn because they change their settings like every month. But if you go through, yeah, if you really take some time, carve out some time in your planner, about half an hour to really comb through your settings, you're going to find that option where it wants to know whether you're actively job searching or not. And that can be tricky to decide whether you want to turn that on or not, because well, you know, if your current employer is also on LinkedIn, they might be aware of that. But if you don't really mind, or it's not like it puts a big flag over your profile, I'm looking for a job, but it does make it more viewable. So that might be the option for you. And I myself have not had it up when I got asked about a job by a recruiter. I said, no, I'm not looking for a job, and they still contacted me. So you never know. Like I said, just be active on LinkedIn, and that can draw their attention. Awesome. I'm glad I answered your question, Stacy. So I'm going to go on to the next question. What is the best way to network? And I want to hear any and all answers to that question. So what is the best way to network? Show up to things. Absolutely. It can be tricky right now because there's not a lot of in-person meetings. But this right here, what you're doing right now, is networking. So it may not seem so much like it because you're not seeing your other participants, but this is a way to get your name out there. Like I said, we help with the job search. We don't really get in touch with actual people who are hiring, but it could be useful to network. It's giving you those skills. Any other suggestions for what the best way to network is? I should have got some music to play while we're waiting. Okay, well, once again, there is no really wrong answer to this. It used to be the way to do it is just go to get-togethers and conventions, and obviously those are all kind of off the table right now, but leverage friendships, absolutely. So conferences, friendships, volunteers, job fairs, hobby clubs, these are all a great way to make connections. And like I said, we're all kind of limited a bit in the physical sense right now, but a lot of these connecting tools have still continued to exist online and can help you with that job. So a lot of conferences and job fairs have gone virtual, and they kind of work like a little expanded Zoom call where you're going to be in like a little waiting room, and you'll see the different digital booths of all the different companies that are hiring, and there will often be a chat lounge. Those are good things to go to, and sometimes those are even free, so you can just pop in, and maybe there's a job fair that's not even in your area, but you can, if you can go to it, go to it. So like I said before, LinkedIn comments are a great place to network. Be active on there if you have that option to connect to people with the industry. It's a pretty open tool. Very few people don't respond to comments. Even sometimes the people who lead the LinkedIn learning videos that I was talking about will respond right there to you in the comment section. If you've got a video that you've been watching, or a company site that you've been following that you're interested in getting a job for, leave a comment in that section. Look at their tree. Sometimes in LinkedIn, you can see the development tree, or the, what's the word I'm looking for? You'll see the tree of employees if they're connected through there, and you can make connections with people who are on your tier or not. Reach out to them and see if they're interested in. Friends are always a good thing. It's never a bad thing to go to a friend and say, hey, do you know anybody who's hiring? Hobby clubs are still pretty active. We do them through the library here, but I'm sure other places host them too. And they do Zoom meetings where you just sit and knit together, and maybe that can lead to a job connection. Volunteering, though limited right now, is a great place to get a job. I got my very first job when I was in high school through volunteering. I'd gone to the pet shelter to just play with cats because that's what I wanted to do. And it gave me my first legitimate job that got me my first driver's license as soon as I wanted it, because I had that job and I had that connection. If a company knows that you're a good volunteer and they're hiring, they're going to go to you first because they already know you and they know your work ethic. So make connections, whatever it could be. It's a good place to get your foot in the door, and it doesn't always have to be those big names. Sometimes your friends or your peers in a different industry are going to be your go-to person more than necessarily the hiring manager. So cold connect, it's kind of scary, but it's the best option, especially right now while we're all doing things online anyway. So ways to prepare your profile for those connections. So make sure you've got a resume, physical and digital. Make sure you've got a summary pitch. So summary pitches are also referred to as elevator pitches. It's if you can sum up what you want to do and what you've got experience doing in 3 to 4 sentences, there you go. Just memorize it, get it down, be ready to just write it out or say it out whenever you have the opportunity to. Set your locations. Some of these job sites will let you set your locations and say, hey, I'm only interested in jobs in this area, or hey, I'm only interested in jobs in this field. I don't care if it's in California. Check your social media. An often forgotten thing is, what are your privacy settings, not just on your LinkedIn, but on your Facebook? What have you been posting on Instagram lately? Is your name on Twitter match your actual name on your resume? Do you have those sites able to see anything that you're doing so that when that hiring manager searches your name, those things came up? Make sure that those things look like how you want them to look like when you're applying to jobs. So make sure also, another key thing to do with resumes and cover letters is check those keywords. Right now, because everybody is applying for jobs, lots of people are unemployed, and nobody's really meeting in real life, job sites are relying on algorithms to sort through those resumes. They might have 2 positions open at a company and get 800 resumes, and that's a lot. So I can guarantee you no human is looking through all those resumes. So make sure that in your cover letter, in your resume, you're kind of mimicking the same keywords that you see in that job search description category. So really know that job description, go to their website and check out what kind of language they use on their website and incorporate that into your resume and your cover letter. And that's going to help you get that interview. So some other search tips. Make sure you have your career goals in mind so you know what to include in your search. Another good thing to do is Google. Google itself is a great job search. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can switch my screen share to show you just how easy doing a job search on Google is. So you guys have all got my Google screen up, right? Yeah, okay. So if you just search for jobs in Champaign, Illinois, it's going to give you LinkedIn right at the top, but you've now got, if you scroll down just a little bit, some settings to play around with. You can see the jobs posted in the past 3 days, and you can click on that and change it. You can go back. You can change it to full-time or part-time. You can change the title. Maybe you're only interested in forklift operator jobs. Maybe you just want to be an advocate or attorney or a babysitter. You can narrow it down, a bank teller. it's going to tell you, oh, look, there's a bank teller position right now in Champaign through PNC. It gives you a little description, and it gives you an average pay rate through Glassdoor pay scale. And now you've got some ratings down here too. So you can go ahead and click that Apply Now button. It's going to take you directly to that site. So there's some pretty cool things in Google job search if you haven't checked it out. And that's going to give you the option of looking for some jobs without having to sign up for yet another website. So I highly recommend checking that out. So Google Tools or Google Job Search is another great one. All right. So like I said, research the company. The best way to get in for an interview is to show the person you're interviewing with that you know the company and you know what they're about, they know what they expect of you, and you're familiar with kind of that company feeling that they have. So check out their homepage, check out their social media. If they have their own page on LinkedIn, check out and follow their posts. Set alerts. Maybe you can comment and get your way in. If they recognize your name, they might be more willing to call you in or hunt through that stack of 800 resumes to find you. And that's also where that cold calling that Madeleine talked about could come in handy. Because if you've applied and you've been checking out their Instagram or whatever, and then you give them a call, hey, I'm really interested in your company. Just send in my resume. Let me know if you've got any questions. That's sometimes all you need. Another good search tip is set time limits for your search. One of the things I got really into when I was at a time where I was really job searching was searching 8 hours a day. Some people will tell you work your job search like you would a job. And maybe that works for some people, but I can tell you it absolutely did not work for me. Spending 8 hours a day looking for jobs, all that got me was stressed out. And then I was applying and signing up for interviews and showing up to interviews when I forgot which one I was actually showing up for because I had 5 scheduled that week. Don't recommend it. Find what you need best. And maybe you do need those 8 hours a day to search for jobs, but I don't recommend it. Maybe you just need 2 hours. Maybe you need 3. Set that time limit, search for those jobs, and give it a rest. So those are some more job search tips. Before we go on, because I know I've been talking for a bit and we've covered a lot of ground, I wanted to see if you guys have any other questions about those specific sites we talked about or any search tips. Because I'm going to go into a little bit of just red flags to look for when you're job searching. Let me check time too. Okay, we're coming up to the end. So yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. I'm not seeing any, but I do know I can kind of get going on a topic and not stop. So I want to make sure I'm meeting your needs here. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to go on, but if you've got them, I've got my chat box up, so I'll catch them. So some more things to look for. Make sure you're looking at some legitimate opportunities here. Like I was talking about, sometimes Indeed or Craigslist or Monsters can have some opportunities on there that aren't necessarily what you're, oh, thanks, I guess. Some of my notes are showing, so that's great. Let me go ahead and stop my share and reshare it. Not like there's anything I'm not going to go over and say out loud, but okay. All right. Let me go back here. Thanks for bearing with these technical difficulties, guys. I think it's got it now. If not, oh well, that's all right. So some opportunities to look for, required or volunteered information. So some places can have discriminatory questions. If they're asking questions about your race or your age or your gender or your sexual orientation, those are not jobs you necessarily want to look for, because those are questions that could violate some federal and state level discriminatory questions. So just be aware of that. Be hesitant of any company that is offering a position in return for a fee or a payment. So that could look like, buy this product now, and then if you sell them all, we'll give you a bonus. Or they might ask for you to take a personality test, and if you pay $50, they'll go ahead and give you that interview. That's not necessarily the best site or job to look up for. Be hesitant of companies that ask to do a credit check. Sometimes they might say, well, if you get this position, we'll give you the company credit card. So we need to know what your credit score looks like. That's a red flag right there. There might be some jobs out there that are going to give you that credit card, but just to come out right and say that right away just kind of gives some weird vibes to me. So I would recommend not going with jobs like that. Any company that promises you a position before an interview is right off the bat one to be skeptical. Or if they're unwilling to put a job description or acceptance letter in writing, whether that's through an email or a mailed form, be aware of that. I myself have fallen into that and wished I could go back and tell myself the same advice. If they're not willing to put that in writing, probably not something to count on. Another one to look for is checking the Better Business Bureau to see if they have legitimacy comments from other people who've been customers or staff there. And it's always good to take some of those with a grain of salt, but sometimes Better Business Bureau is like, they're pretty legit, but you can sometimes see comments where you can tell a customer was just really having a bad day and maybe it necessarily wasn't the company's fault. So just be wary of that too. So always double check the company's website or call them to confirm their hiring. So if you see a job posted, but if you go to the website and it doesn't kind of check out, that's a good call to pick up the phone and give them a call and say, hey, is this something that you actually are hiring for? I'd really be interested in it, and see what they say. If it's basic rule, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And if you have any questions, once again, that's where the library can come in to check. We are more than willing to verify some websites or phone numbers or whatever you may have that doesn't look quite right for you if you're not sure to tell yourself. So you've applied, you've got your resume in order, you've got your websites looking pretty great, you've reached out to them, and you're just waiting to hear back for that interview. This is the most excruciating time. What do you do? If you can apply or to volunteer somewhere, that will take your time. It'll keep your skills handy. It'll keep you active, and it could lead to those connections. Be aware of the time frame of your looking, so don't overtax yourself. It's really easy to say don't over worry, but this is a really good time right now to just learn. Take a new hobby up, exercise, check out a new book, take some time to really study something new. And those experiences will help you in that job and help you feel active without stressing you out. Network, go to events like this, check out the chat rooms in LinkedIn or comment sections on LinkedIn Learning, and make those connections with peers. Research those companies and connections through LinkedIn. If you've got a good coworker that you used to work with at a previous job, see what they're doing now. Maybe their company is hiring. Maybe they've moved on and are in a new place and you'd be interested in working with them again. Might as well. So take a class, a craft, reach out to people. This is a great time, even though it can be really stressful, to just focus on what you're doing for yourself right now and reevaluate what you're doing. Some other things to expect when you're job searching. There's no clear set path. Remember that. It's not always resume, apply, interview, hired. And sometimes you can go through so many interviews and still not get the job that you're looking for. And it's really hard to realize that there's no necessarily clear timeline, but just focus on getting those skills and experience in. it's also a good time sometimes to apply to jobs and practice your interview skills, even if you're not necessarily that interested in the job. And when I was looking for jobs in Tampa, I was primarily focused on museum work at that time, but there were a couple positions open up at the zoo, and I thought, well, why not? I might as well apply and see what happens. And one of them ended up being for a groundskeeping job, which was not in my skill set at all. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to go on into this interview because I don't have anything else going on today, and it will help practice my interview skills. So we do those practice interviews here, but by all means, take a practice interview. Not to say, waste people's time that you're not really interested in the job at all for, but even if you show up and you realize this is not quite the job for you, finish it up and give it your all, because it's going to be great practice going forward. That's going to make you feel less stressed for that dream job. So this is a great place to realize you have some flexible plans in place, and that any experience can be a learned experience to add to your resume. So like I said, check that resume in the meantime. Check those employment sites. Cloud storage is one I have on there because I'm a big fan of Google Drive. I know Microsoft OneDrive also has some of the same tools where they've got templates where you can check out different resumes. Sometimes just giving your resume a fresh look by filling out one of those templates can be the go-to. To really freshen up that resume and apply again. So application tracking. Create that tracker, with your list of job titles, job companies, a short description, a website if they've got it, and where you're at in the process with them. Have you submitted that application? Are you waiting for an interview? Have you got the interview and you're waiting for a call back? Keep track of that stuff, and that'll help you stay on the ball. And volunteer if you have the chance. It's going to keep your skills relevant. It'll keep those connections and networking, and it'll help you sometimes channel to paid work, or just keep your mind off of the fact that you're really trying to find a job in the meantime. So it's good to stay healthy and socialize as well. So I've got one other question time here. How do you avoid becoming stressed while job searching? Just share with me. For me, it turned out to be exercising and keeping a planner, just keeping track of the things I had done, and taking up a new skill. And now I can't stop running. So it's become my go-to stress reliever, and in job searching, and now as I'm regularly employed and loving it. So what do you do? What are you doing right now to keep yourself from becoming too stressed while you're looking? Oh, name something you're grateful for. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good to remember the things that you do have to be thankful for during this time. Like I said, my focus tends to be like, well, maybe I don't have a job right now, but I'm learning these skills. And so I'm just going to really focus on these new skills I'm picking up when in running or whatever else you're interested in. Naming things you're grateful for is a good thing. Yeah, check in with your support system. Sometimes your family members or your friends can really be your go-to people to keep you grounded, to keep you from getting too panicky. If you really bombed an interview, sometimes they're the best people to go to remind yourself that maybe you didn't do so badly. Maybe you really had a good one. If we got any other things, what do you do to avoid becoming stressed while job searching? I know it can be tough. I've been there myself. I had a time where I was working 3 different part-time jobs, trying to just get one to give me full time. And that was some of the most stressful times of my life. So my loved ones and my hobbies really, really came to me. And that's okay if you're not really sure. Sometimes this is a really stressful time in your life. I don't want to play it off like it isn't. It absolutely is. It's very stressful. And maybe we can just kind of share some tips with you that you can help become less stressed with. When I was also in that job searching time, I know we're coming up on time here. But planning, like I said, my planner became my go-to. It helped me keep track of the things I was accomplishing, because it was really easy to get stuck in that mindset of like, oh, well, I'm not employed, so I'm not doing anything worthy. And I could go back and say, no, I did do this, and I did do this, and I learned this new skill. And yeah, sometimes there's classes on stresses. I know there's classes on stress through LinkedIn. We probably offer them here at the library too. Don't hesitate to check out champaign.org/events. We're always happy to help, whether it's making you feel prepped for that interview, or you just need a resume review to make sure what you submitted is looking good. We can do that for you. We've got lots of activities here. So, oh, look at that. And if you check your chat box, Madeleine, it's got a thing right there, recognizing managing stress. It's a great place to go to.
Very nice, Madeleine.
Thank you for that. That's all I've got for tonight. If you've got any questions, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out. You know where to find us. And you can contact Jordan, me, Madeleine, any one of us would be happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you, Kat. That was great. Thank you, Madeleine, for the guest appearance. If you have any further questions, just type them into the chat. I think I just lost the chat here. Well, hopefully Kat can see it. So yeah, you can reach out to us if you want to meet one-on-one. We're doing these through Zoom, but we could easily work with you on a platform that you're comfortable with, like Skype or something like that. And we don't have to jump right into the resumes. We can just focus on introductions if you'd like. We're hosting those practice interviews. So we're all here to help you. So let's see here. Our next webinar will be next Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's state-based employment resources. So we have Don, Ryan, and Dan Garvey from, they're representing different state agencies like Illinois Job Link that Kat talked about, and Get Hired Illinois. So they'll talk about some of those resources as well. And then we do have more upcoming webinars. These are the career ones here, but we have a lot more related to our business series, our tech series, our crafty adults, our writers workshops, things like that. We do have the Recognizing and Managing Stress webinar on Thursday, January 21st at 5:30. Thank you, Madeleine, for the reminder. So you could easily attend that one. It will be recorded, so if you miss it, it'll be available via the library's YouTube channel. And I don't think we have anything else. And if you want to sign up for any of those webinars, you can visit champaign.org/events. So yeah, once again, you could just visit champaign.org for the latest library news and updates. You can email us at librarian@champaign.org. You can chat with us just by visiting the homepage of our website. Anything else to add, Kat or Madeleine?
Thank you.
I don't think so. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for attending, and we're happy to help. Just let us know.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. I don't see any further questions. All right, well, thank you, everyone, and good night.